Welcome to another edition of Wildcat Country. Eric Cohen and Shane Dale, and it is a victorious one as the Wildcats, as you guys probably know if you're listening to the program, defeated NAU 38-3 on Saturday. Shane, we're back in action. It's time to go. And now the big one starts this week. And by the way, we have a big guest. Before you start talking, we have a big guest. Our buddy Barrett Baker, who broke down the same game last year, and you guys loved it. Even the Mississippi State guys love Barrett Baker.
Yeah.
He's going to be back with us on the show this
Barrett
week.
is one of the best analysts we have. If he wasn't out, wasting his time saving lives and putting out fires, the Tucson Fire Department, he'd be a great analyst. But I'm glad that he gives us his time and shares his wisdom with us and his analysis. So definitely check that out. You were at the game, Erica. What was the attendance? Well, first of all, the reported attendance was like 48,000 something. Was it anywhere close to that or no?
No. I would put it about 75% of that number, Shane. Anyway, listen, it was a good crowd. I mean, everybody knew what they were going to see. I mean, Arizona went down, scored right away, and you're like, all right. The fact that NAU kind of held the ball for a large majority of the first half, it was kind of, I got to halftime, I was like, this is kind of a boring game. I mean, Arizona was never in danger, but it was
a weird game, and part of it, I think, is the new clock rules, which we'll talk about. Arizona only got the ball 4 times in the first half. But it was strange because, it was kind of uninspired in the first half. You texted me late in the first half, and I was feeling the same way. I feel like Arizona fans are in 2 camps right now. There's the camp that's like, there's some discouraging signs. They looked a little too flat, and I'm a little concerned going forward. And the other side is like, you guys, are you crazy? They won 38-3. It's fine. It's early in the season. I feel like at this point in the season too, Eric, especially with a lot of new players, and there are new players every year now, especially with the transfer portal, but it's kind of like it's like organized chaos a little bit, trying to bring some order to chaos because you get no preseason games. You're basically just hitting each other for weeks, and then you have to go out and play real competition for the first time. And they did what they needed to do. Things definitely to clean up, which we'll get to. But look, better result than 2 years ago. They're 1-0, and that's all that matters right now.
Yeah, and I mean, it was great to be able to leave the game at the start of the fourth quarter and get home at a reasonable hour. Unlike a couple of years ago where it stayed till the end and it was utterly depressing. Yeah. So I'll tell you, I mean, it was just one of those games that I would say it's one of those you take it for granted games in that Arizona, we're used to Arizona not playing as well. And I mean, this was a thorough domination and the defense looked good. And all right, let's get right to it, Shane. Let's not dilly-dally anymore. Let's get right into Buy or Sell, which is presented by our friends at Ice Shaker. Go to iceshaker.com and get one of those beauties that Shane has in his hand right now. If you're watching the YouTube stream, use promo code Wildcat Country, capital W, capital C, get $5 off, or go to fanatics.com and get yourself some kind of an ice shaker. All right. Number one, Shane, buy or sell from Saturday's game. Jayden de Laura, buy or sell either his performance and or going forward.
I'm still a buyer. I mean, going back to his last 3 games, I would definitely sell that set. Going back to the Washington State and ASU games last year, I feel like something's just maybe missing a little from him. And watching him, listening to him in press conferences, I feel like this is not a perfect comparison, but just because he's used to be a fellow Arizona guy, I feel like there's a little Kirk Kriisa in him and that he's a very emotional guy, which can be beneficial at times, but also sort of a hindrance at times. He certainly wasn't awful against NAU, and he made some big plays, the 53-yard touchdown run, which he might not have made last year. He seems a little faster. He did turn the ball over twice. I'm not sure what happened on that throw to T-Mac. After listening to Jedd Fisch and Jayden both talk about it, I still don't know. I think Arizona has all the elements of an elite offense, great receivers, a deep group of running backs who can catch the ball, a pretty solid offensive line, but it's all up to the quarterback to execute. And from time to time, Jayden, I think, tries to make plays that aren't there. There's a little too much freelancing. The only thing that I think is going to hold this offense back, in my opinion, is Jayden's decision-making. And it's not awful by any means, but I think it's got to be a bit better going forward, especially this weekend.
All right, so this is going to probably stir the pot, but I don't think that's going to be a surprise based on recent reactions, and we'll talk about that, I'm sure, throughout the show. I'm going to sell it, and it's not that he played bad, Shane, but he's too reckless, and that is the issue that I have. The fumble was like, what are you doing? Now, I didn't see the interception because I had already gone. Yeah. I think that was in the fourth quarter.
It was fourth quarter, yeah.
And I was gone, so I haven't gone back to look at it, but too reckless. And when you're going up against a defense like Mississippi State this week, you gotta play smarter.
Yeah.
And I want to see Jaden do that. And I didn't really see evidence of that in game one. And so I'm mildly concerned. It's not like a full sell, but I'm mildly concerned.
But it's fair though, because I think you think back to his last good game. It was the win at UCLA last year.
Yeah.
And he made a number of plays. That fourth down throw he made to T-Mac for the touchdown on late in the game was outstanding. And when he freelances, he can be great. And I think we also have to remember it's against NAU, and he's probably not terribly concerned about losing that game. But it's fair to be a little concerned. Is he going to be the guy that's going to get him to that next level? He's got all the talent. I just think any issues that he has, I think, is in his head. Put it that way.
Well, but it's the decision making that I'm concerned about. Now, I'm not going to judge him off NAU, but this week, I'm sure I'm going to bring this question back next week, because one way or the other, we're going to talk about it. If Arizona wins the game, we're going to say we're going to buy Jaden.
Mm-hmm.
And if they lose the game, we're going to, we'll worry about that when that happens. All right. 1B, Shane, Arizona's offense, buy or sell?
Yeah, like I just said, I definitely buy the offense as a whole. All the tools are there. Jedd did note the offensive line did have to make a bit of an adjustment without freshman Raymond Polito, who would practice exclusive. He said he had practiced exclusively with the first team unit for 2 weeks leading up to the NAU game, but he got hurt in a bike accident 2 days before the game, and his status for Mississippi State isn't clear right now. So I think that can cause some communication issues, which could come into play in short yardage situations, which Arizona did struggle a bit in against NAU. And Polito's status for this weekend is still up in the air, so that concerns me a bit. Big picture, though, I think the offense was good, if not quite clicking on all cylinders. I love that all of Arizona's running backs can catch the ball and make plays out of the backfield that way. And it's something I was thinking about. I used to work at ABC 15, and I actually did a Zoom interview with Manny Wilkins, who I won't score me any points with this audience, but I just did a little feature on him. He's with the Packers at the time, and I asked him what kind of advice he gave the incoming quarterback, Jaden Daniels, and one of the things he told him was the check down is your friend. In other words, you don't have to do it all. And I think Jaden DeLora would be well advised to remember that a little more often. He's got so many skilled playmakers, he doesn't have to do it all. But yeah, if you're an opposing defense, it's a pick your poison situation.
Yeah.
You have to account for the receivers, Jaden DeLora's speed, the running backs, and the running backs coming out of the backfield catching the ball. Jonah Coleman in particular is turning into a beast. 88 yards and a touchdown on just 6 touches.
He was legit. But I'll tell you what, Shane, the other guy that really impressed me was DJ Williams. He was running like a wrecking ball. I mean, when you have those two guys plus Wiley and Speedy Luke, you can't tell me that there are that many. I mean, Arizona's got to have a top 3 or 4 backfield as far as stable of running backs in the Pac-12.
Well, and it's huge because you can just keep rotating them in and out too. If you're an opposing defense, you're going to keep going up against backs who don't get tired. I would like to see Jonah Coleman get the ball a little bit more. He only touched it 6 times, which, I mean, against NAU in a blowout game isn't a big deal, but I love the balance of the offense. But again, my biggest question on offense is the quarterback.
All right. So how about 1C? The Arizona defense, Shane, which gave up 3 points, including a goal line stand. So I left right at the start of the fourth quarter when they were doing the lights thing. By the way, they don't stop believing anymore. I don't know if that's a good thing or bad thing, but we'll worry about that. I thought, all right, well, NAU is going to score. We're going to win 35-10. Not going to cover the line. So be it. And then, I got to the car and I heard that they held them. I'm like, whoa, where did this Arizona defense come from?
I think I got the margin of victory right, 35 points. I just had both teams scoring 2 more touchdowns.
I had 38. Yeah, I had 38. So whoops, but close.
Yeah. That's fine. Well, as far as the defense goes, you look at the stat sheet, just 1 sack and 1 takeaway, but they were efficient in third down defense, 6 of 18 on third downs for NAU. They made some big plays around the goal line, like you said. It's weird because it could have easily been 14-14 early in the third quarter, if not for a holding penalty late in the first half and a goal line stand. Look, they were never in danger of losing. I'm just saying it was a weird kind of game.
They should have been 28-0. Yeah. Let me tell you, I mean, NAU talent-wise it's not there. I mean, It was like watching, when you watch high school football, when you watch a dominant team and then a team that really has no business being on the field. I'm not going to go that far, but it was pretty close. I mean, Arizona looked the part. Yeah. They have, I had somebody comment to me, Shane, just want to point this out. Arizona has size on the lines.
Yeah.
And we don't, I mean, outside of our buddy Jacob Alsadek with Rich Rod, it wasn't that way. I mean, it was like the guys weren't that much bigger. These Jedd Fisch guys are that they are bigger than the competition, some of the competition.
And football's still a simple game. You win the battle up front, you're going to win more often than not. That and the turnover battle are the two biggest indicators in just about every football game. But I also looks like the offense. I like the depth of this year's defense compared to last year's. Jedd noted they're able to rotate guys in and out of the front seven, keep them fresh. It's a luxury you didn't have last year. Corners were good for the most part. Jacob Manu led the team in tackles, which isn't a surprise. Concern going into Starkville is Gunnar Maldonado, who won't. I don't know if you were there just to watch the targeting call, but he's not going to be able to play in the first half of the Mississippi State game because of that.
They got it right. I mean, that was a good call. Yeah, I mean, and Stukes is hurt. Traden Stukes is hurt.
Yeah,
he might have a concussion.
We don't know if he's going to be able to play or not.
What I think, and we'll talk more about Mississippi State as we go along, and Barrett will break it down. Mississippi State now is not going to throw it all over the lot like they did with Leach as much. They're going to try to run it down your throat,
which they did in their first game of the season. Yeah.
Right. Well, I mean, look who they were playing.
No, but still, it was a balanced offense.
But that's where Arizona's defensive line. I mean, Bill Norton is a difference maker. You can tell why Georgia wanted him. I mean, he is. Oh, yeah. He's a legit guy.
Yeah. Well, and the other concern on defense is the penalties. The personal fouls.
Oh, it's so stupid, terrible.
It's the good news is these are things could be fixed, can be avoided. And Jedd Fisch talked about after the game. These guys have been hitting each other for weeks, and they wanted to go out and hit someone else. And you combine that with a lot of young guys and inexperienced guys, and it's probably not a surprise that happened. But they got to clean that up. And Jedd said on Tuesday, they do that against Mississippi State. If they're about to get off the field on a third down, and then a personal foul penalty gives Mississippi State a fresh set of downs, or on special teams. I know we're talking about defense, but on special teams, they roughing the kicker call. Anything, the margin for error is going to be very, very small. So Arizona has to clean that up between now and next week. But I am concerned about what Will Rogers might do to Arizona this weekend, like he did last year. But overall, I thought it was a reasonably encouraging start to the season for them, so I'll buy them for now.
Okay, let's talk real quick about the Pac-12. Buy or sell? Colorado, Shane. I mean,
well, first of all, the Pac-12 is 13-0. Which of course, their last season they have their best ever start. Colorado, you got to buy at this point, right? I think one of the things to keep an eye on early in the season is Colorado that good, or is TCU really going to be an average team this year? We might look back in November and TCU say like 4-6, and we're thinking, okay, really wasn't that impressive. But you can't take away what Colorado did, especially when their quarterback set a school record for passing yards in his first start. We'll see if they can keep it up. Nebraska's going to be a good test for them. We're going to pick that game later, I think. And by the way, and I mentioned this on social media, I'll mention it here. Everyone who gave you crap for saying Colorado could beat Arizona this year owes you an apology.
Well, right now, the look-ahead line, somebody put this out, that I think it's Colorado -8 if they were to play Arizona. Now, listen, Colorado is being overrated by everybody. TCU's defense stinks. They give up 65 to Georgia in the championship. I mean, their defense is not good. But what Colorado did is super impressive. I think they'll beat Nebraska this weekend. We'll talk about that. Then they get Oregon and USC. So good luck with that. So let's ride the prime train for now. But then, I mean, you have to buy them based on that. I mean, they look like a bowl team. I'll give you that.
I'll tell you what, it's great. It's great for college football. This whole storyline is great for college football, regardless if you're a fan of Coach Prime or not.
Well, right. It's good for college football for now. I mean, you look at a guy like Travis Hunter playing 100 and something, 100.
Amazing.
I mean, that's incredible.
Travis Otani, call him.
I mean, seriously, that's incredible. And Sanders looks like an NFL quarterback, Deion's kid. So you have to buy them. How about ASU, Shane? You buying or selling ASU after that 3-point Haboob win on Thursday?
Yeah, I think it's too early to sell based on that performance. Because again, I feel like there's just so much, especially with ASU, so many new players, a new coaching staff. I do think it's funny to hear ASU fans make the excuse that, well, they had that long weather delay, so that threw them off in the second half when Southern Utah made it close. Forgive me if I'm wrong, but Southern Utah also experienced that weather delay. So it's not like it was just one-sided, but this is a team that's still figuring out who it is. So I'm not prepared to say the Devils are going to go 1-11. But one thing we did learn is their quarterback, Jaden Rashada, has a cannon for an arm. And it's early, but it looks like Kenny Dillingham maybe knew what he was doing when he gave him the start. And you got to think he's only going to get better as the season goes on. So I'll buy them as far as where I projected them going into the season as a 3, 4, 5 win team for now.
I'll tell you what, Shane. I went to bed because the game ended. They should have just quit the game. They should have quit the game.
What ended like 1:30?
Yeah, I mean that's ridiculous. They did that. Anyways, ASU, knowing what the result was, probably should have quit the game. A 3-point win over a team that lost 70-7 or 73-7 to Utah last year. That doesn't make anybody feel good.
No.
I mean, I know it's early for Kenny. Rashada showed something, but Rashada kind of reminds me of Jaden Daniels, who was like good his freshman year for ASU, got worse his sophomore year, got worse his junior year, and then transferred. And then, he was halfway decent at LSU before this past week. So Rashada's got some potential. I'll give you that, but you got to sell them. I mean, they look like a 3-win team. I think I overrated them saying 4 or 5. Like I get it. I just, again, you have no preseason games. You're going out with a new players, a new staff. I'm not making excuses for ASU. I don't think they're a good team. Don't get me wrong, but I'm not going to downgrade them from where I had them, which was already pretty low, just based on that performance. Fair enough. Okay, let's talk about this one. We'll call this 2C. The Heisman winner will be a Pac-12 member. You got Caleb Williams, you got Michael Penix, who had an incredible game. You had Bo Nix, you got Shedeur Sanders. Are you buying or selling that the Heisman winner will come from the Pac-12?
I would stay in the buying mood, Eric. You got to buy at this point. I mean, there's a decent chance that the eventual winner isn't even someone we're talking about right now, because that happens a lot. But between Caleb Williams and Michael Penix, just those two guys, I think both of them have at least a 1 in 5 chance of winning it right now, maybe better. You throw in some of the other guys you mentioned. Yeah, I mean, of course, the Pac-12 is of course, it's off to its best start ever in its final season. And it'd be fitting that the Pac-12 ends up having the Heisman Trophy winner as well. So I would, but in the very, very, very early stages in the season, I will buy that collectively the Pac-12 is probably in front for a Heisman winner.
Yeah, I would too right now. I think Penix right now looks, I mean, as there's some against a Boise State team that's no slouch.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a slight buy. Jordan Travis from Florida State they could go 12-0 right there, 13-0 with the way Clemson looked on Monday night. Number 3, Shane, the new clock rules, buy or sell.
Why don't you go first on this one? Because I have some thoughts, but I'll let you go first on this one.
I get home quicker. I'm not complaining.
Was the game quicker though?
Yeah.
Okay, because I've been waiting to see. I've been waiting to see whether these rules have actually reduced the length of games, because that's why I was in favor of the rule change. I don't think it's necessary to stop the clock after every first down, and they still do the last 2 minutes of each half. I think it's a silly, arbitrary rule, and it's fine. I'm fine as far as getting rid of it. In terms of plays and drives per game, those have been reduced so far from an average of 131 plays per game last year to 117 so far this year. The problem is, as Chip Kelly noted at halftime of the UCLA game, the extra time seems to be eaten up by ads. So games might not actually be that much shorter. I don't know. Like I said, I haven't seen a stat on that. So if you're just increasing the amount of downtime during games, it's the same length. That sucks. It's the opposite of what I and others wanted in terms of speeding up the clock.
All right. So the timeouts were 2:35. Okay, and I don't remember what they were before. And I know it was a Pac-12 network game. We'll see when they are on ESPN or ABC or Fox what those look like. But as far as keep the clock running, a few less plays per game. The fact that NAU tried to play keep away in the first half and it worked. So, I'm not going to blame that on the clock rules. I think Chip Kelly going, "Oh, it's stupid." It's, you know what? The NFL does it, and they existed like this for however many years, and nobody's had a problem. So, Chip, you've dealt with it before. Get with it and stop whining. Yeah. I really think this is the most overblown issue. It could care less, honestly. Could absolutely care less that there are less plays. You know what? The only thing that it matters for, maybe you bet the unders more often than you bet the overs. Outside of that, so Arizona had 6 less plays a game? Oh, well.
Yeah. I don't care about that. It's like I said, I really am interested. And if you're listening right now, send me a link and show me if there's a study that shows the average time of games so far this year compared to last year. I've seen statistics as far as drives and plays per game, but I haven't seen length of games. So send me that if you have it.
All right, let's go to this one here. Last one, Shane, of this segment. The odds makers got it wrong. 10.5 is too many points for Mississippi State to lay at home with the Cowbells against Arizona. Buy or sell?
No, I'm going to sell it because I actually thought the spread was going to be bigger than that. I was thinking 13 to 14 points. The line was, I think it was originally 8 to 9 points, but it's gone up since they first came out, which tells you that it was probably too low. But no, the bottom line is you have an Arizona team that's improved, but still went below 500 last year, going on the road against what's at least an average SEC team. And so I would have expected the spread to be even bigger than 10.5. So no, I think where it's at is about right, if not a little low.
Okay. I actually think it's a little low as well. So I'm kind of surprised. I thought that the line would be, I probably would have put it around 14.
Yeah.
I mean, Arizona lost, what was the final, 37 to 14 or something, like 38-14 last year, something like that, 38-16, somewhere in that ballpark. I thought they're showing respect for Arizona. The other interesting thing, Shane, is the over-under. Now, I thought it would be, with Mississippi State focusing on defense, I thought this, and Arizona showing an improvement, albeit against Northern Arizona, I thought the over-under would be in the lower 50s, and it's in the upper 50s. So we'll make our picks later in the show, but that was really kind of a surprise to me. As at first, I was like playing around with scores, and I'm like, can I go a lower scoring game, or do the odds makers know something?
That was my first thought. When I saw the original line is 9, I'm thinking, do they know something we don't? Because Arizona's going on the road against an SEC team. And while I think Arizona, look, they can certainly be competitive, and we'll make our predictions later. But I would not have dreamed that the line would have opened at a single digit. I would not have thought that. So that surprised me, and does make me wonder if Vegas knows something we don't.
So I saw somebody sent me a screenshot earlier in the day on Sunday that the line was 17.5. I was like, yeah, I'd jump on that for sure. And then now who knows what that was, because some of the books will open it, then they'll close their lines quickly. So if you really got to jump on it if you are a bettor in that sense. I like to wait till midweek to kind of see what's going on first. Yeah. I think the line right now at 10.5, I guess we'll make you guys wait. We'll talk to Barrett Baker, and then we'll make our picks in the last segment, and you can see where we're going. And oh, by the way, for our buddy Coach, who's definitely not listening to this, he lost to both you and I against the spread, Shane. We'll give some records in the third segment, but first, it's Barrett Baker here on Wildcat Country.
What's up, Wildcat Country? It's Robbie G, baby, and I am gearing up for a big year with Coach Jedd Fisch, and excited to see what the Arizona Wildcats do this football season. And just like the football team, we stepped up our program as well with the official licensed U of A Ice Shaker, baby. Check it out and get it at fanatics.com. Bear down, Arizona. Let's go.
Shane, always glad to have one of our favorite football guests back on, Barrett Baker, who is a special teams captain. I never get this right. I'm going to say a captain or a battalion chief in the Tucson Fire Department. Can you correct me yet again, as we do every show?
Public servant, we'll just say that. How about that? But I guess officially would be deputy chief, and 23 years on the job now, so it's going quick.
I call you a hero. That's what I call you instead. That'll be the new title, because that you are, with what we've seen, obviously, around the globe in Hawaii and the job that firefighters have, I mean, the bravery you guys have is light years above anything that I was ever cut out to do. Let me tell you that. So many props to you.
I would say this, definitely not a hero, but if the opportunity ever presented itself, then I would hope that we would step up and do the heroic act. And we've got about 600 firefighters in TFD that hopefully do that every day. So proud to be part of that.
Spoken like a hero, Barrett.
Thank you, Shady.
Well, on switching gears as best we can here, Barrett, we saw what happened in game number 1, a 38-3 Arizona victory. But Shane and I talked about earlier, it was kind of a weird game, and we were both we were happy with the result, don't get me wrong, but not overly satisfied with what we saw. A little sloppy. What did you make of it?
I think that Coach Fisch has a memory. And I think the previous experience with NAU is not something that we would ever forget as a coach, as a player, as a fan. And I think that we actually wanted to go out there and really make our mark and make sure that that was forgotten. I thought we played really well in the second half, but you're right, that first half, just not getting a fourth down conversion, having a turnover in the red zone, the punt block, or the roughing the punter. Those are big plays that had a negative impact on the momentum and the score. And so to your point, it just felt like we had a little bit more. When I break down the individual efforts and look at the offensive line and Jonah Coleman and Michael Wiley and those guys, and then the defensive newcomers, I would actually point at it and say I was very pleased overall. But just 38-3, you look at it, you think that was a good win. But I think it left us wanting more. And we could look at that and think that we should have won that game 55-3.
Yeah, and I'm sure Jedd, like you said, he's got a good memory, and I'm sure that was on his mind. But 38-3 with a maybe somewhat mediocre performance, I think we'll take that every day of the week. Let me ask you what your overall thoughts on Jayden de Laura, Barrett, because I feel like Eric and I maybe have been too hard on him. I think his last 3 games overall, going back to last season, he struggled a bit. He's obviously got a ton of talent, but I think Eric and I both think his decision making is a little questionable at times. What are your overall thoughts on him?
It's just so hard when you have Penix from Washington, Caleb Williams from USC. I mean, it is a stacked national position. And so we're comparing him to the best of the best. Under normal circumstances, if you rewound the clock 15 years and he was your quarterback, I think you'd be just singing and dancing about the productivity that he would give you. So, comparison is the thief of joy. And I think that's part of the problem. He's productive. He makes some plays sometimes, as we've talked about in years past, that you just think, oh my gosh, yes. And then that same play, no. And so to that, when it's 1st and 10 and you're driving and you're up 14-0, you just can't make that play. So there is a almost, dare I say, Jake Plummer-esque when Jake Plummer played for the Cardinals, that he would make some plays as a fan of the Cardinals that you would just think, wow. And then they would make the same play and say, wow. But that wow was completely 180 degrees. And I think that he's still got some great football in him. I think that we'll look back at his time here and think that, he was pretty darn good. And the last thing I would say is that we don't know what Coach Jedd Fisch offense is, as in the complexity of it. But it sounds like they put a lot on the quarterback when it comes to pre-snaps and checking in and checking out and kind of run that NFL system. And that's hard compared to some of these guys that, there's no decision, right? Find the open guy and throw it to him. So overall, we're always looking for a little bit better, but I've thought that he's actually played very, very well.
And the Jake Plummer comparison is interesting because I did go to some Cardinals games back in the day, including back in '98 when they finally got to the playoffs and I got to see Jake in person. So definitely a lot of ups and downs with him as a pro. It's a good analogy. Let me ask you about the offensive line because I think for the first time in years, I've actually been kind of excited about the offensive line. You have freshman Raymond Polito, who was supposed to get a start, and then I guess 2 days before the game, he gets in a bike accident. He can't play. We don't know if he's going to play against Mississippi State. But number one, what did you think overall of the offensive line? And number two, how big a deal is communication when you have that kind of last-minute disruption?
Well, when you look at the size of the line, and size to me sometimes is overrated, but that is a NFL-esque offensive line. When you look at Morgan, Savagnia, Wendell Moe has a great physique as well. Baker is now a 4-year starter at center. And that one position was the right guard, where we had not a question mark, but an opening, if you will. And keeping Big Jonah out at right tackle, there was a reason behind that. They were confident that Polito was going to be able to step in and not miss a beat. From a physical standpoint, I think you heard Coach Fisch speak last week about that. They identified the fact that kid was going to be a kid that could walk on campus and start from day one. So when you put him between Big Jonah at right tackle and a 4-year starter at center, that gives him some protection to, not miss, not necessarily make a bad block, or at least know what his assignment is. Having Sam Lange be able to step in on a day's notice and play right guard and play at a high level, that just speaks to a little bit more of the depth that we have compared to years past, because I don't think the 40,000, 45,000 people would have noticed the fact that, oh, hey, our starting right guard isn't actually playing there today. So I think that helps. Coach Carroll has talked about having the ability to play a couple different positions, and we kind of saw that. But Jordan Morgan coming back at left tackle, that speaks volumes. I think they limited his snaps a little bit and put Borjan in at left tackle in the third quarter. But again, we've got a 10 or 11 games that we still have to play, and let's keep those guys healthy and fresh.
Let's talk about the skill position players, Barrett. And I'm really impressed when you look at the running backs went 4 deep. All 4 of those guys showed me something on Saturday night. And the receivers, I mean, you talk about, T-Mac and Cowing, but then Montana Lamonius Craig, Kevin Green, and then not to mention the tight ends with McLaughlin and Kean Burnett. I mean, this has to be as talented Arizona has been at the skill positions in, I can't even remember when combined, right?
My dog agrees with you. I don't know if you can hear that, but she is very happy with the offensive productivity, the offensive potential. And I would say that, right? We know that there is potential there, but that potential has morphed into productivity. And we've said it time and again, pick your poison. What are you going to take away? Are you going to take away the running game? Because then we're going to go 3 or 4 wide, including the tight ends, and pick you apart that way. If you try to take away the passing game, Michael Wiley as a complete back, man, he's got it all, right? He can catch, he can run, he can do everything, he can block. But when you watch Jonah Coleman, does that just give you a little bit different feel? I mean, that kid right now, I would try to get him the ball as much as possible. DJ Williams is a battering ram. And then Speedy Luke, you just hold your breath every time he gets the ball and you think, ugh, he's 1 away. So it would be a fun offense to be a quarterback in. And, we've got 2 quarterbacks that are really probably licking their chops thinking I can beat any defense that lines up against us with the weapons that we have.
Well, we've gone this long without bringing up your bread and butter, and that's defense. Arizona held NAU to 3 points, and including a goal line stand, which I don't care who you're playing against. We haven't seen Arizona do that. Plus, special teams had the first blocked field goal for a touchdown since 2002, since Shane and I were in school. Just your overall thoughts on defense and special teams.
Start with the special teams. Special teams equals game-changing momentum plays when you have something like that. And to that point, it's 14-3. And if they score a touchdown, it's 14-10, and you're thinking, here we go again. They kick the field goal, it's 14-6, and you're in a 1-possession game against NAU in the third quarter, and that makes you sick. So to get a momentum, play like that broke the dam open, gave us some breathing room, let us relax, just fantastic to be able to have that. And that's what you get when it comes to special teams: a punt block, a kickoff return, pinning somebody deep. They're momentum changing plays, because offense and defense is hard. It's a grind to go 80 yards without penalties, without explosive plays, et cetera, et cetera. So if you can get them from special teams, huge bonus. Defense, we talked about it last year a lot. I didn't feel like we had a real identity last year. And it was fantastic to see just the fact that we dominated up front. And I don't think you can say enough about number 45, Bill Norton, was a little bit of a question mark for me. In the spring, whether he was in good shape, bad shape, but man, I felt like he dominated that game when it came to some of the disruptive plays that he had. Tyler Manoa coming in well over 300 pounds, being disruptive. Kongaika, Tai, we've got a rotation up front at the defensive tackle spot now that it's difficult to run against us. And then when you're stopping the run, you make teams one-dimensional, and that makes defense a lot easier.
Barrett, what are your thoughts on the penalties that Arizona racked up? Because I feel like most of them are fixable. Jedd Fisch talked after the game about how some of these guys were just kind of so amped up and ready to play someone that they took some silly personal fouls. Based on what you saw, are most of the penalties things that can be fixed and fixed quickly enough to be competitive against a team like Mississippi State?
The roughing the passers against Upshaw, the second one especially. First one it's a late hit, and they just have no tolerance for that. The second one, he went high, and you just can't do that either. So the fact that he's getting close to the quarterback, that makes me feel good, because I think that could be the Achilles heel with this defense. Sorry about my dog there. My wife is just getting home, so he's excited to see her. What other ones would I guess you had the roughing the kicker Maldonado, on the special teams. Right? That one's just disgusting. You can't do that. Yeah. You never ever can do that.
And they're gonna miss him in the first half against Mississippi State.
Right. And the Maldonado play, I guess I would say the frustration is I think that the cornerback is the one that got beat badly on that. Price Hawk, the 2 plays before that, he had a great pass breakup. He got beat the second time. Now Maldonado has to come over there and try to bail him out. And the fact is, the game is just different. It's disgusting to the traditional players, because at the end of the day, my whole job as a safety is to make sure that guy doesn't touch the ball or catch the ball. And the only way you do that is to separate him from the ball. But you're hitting a moving target at full speed, and it's very, very challenging. So when we scream at the player, and you don't use, well, he didn't use the crown of his head. He kept his head up. It just happened to be helmet to helmet. So it's just a tough bang, bang play that they coach on it. They talk about it. And unfortunately, it's just much more difficult in practice or practicality than I could say in theory.
Quick preview of Mississippi State. And we saw last year, Arizona got off to a quick start, and then it was all Bulldogs after that. Will Rogers is still there at quarterback. A more balanced offense now with a new head coach. What are a couple of the keys to staying competitive for Arizona when they go out to Starkville?
You got to be in the game after the first quarter. It's a road game. It's our first road game of the season. It's an early. We play it at nighttime. That game's a late afternoon game. The weather and just going into an unfriendly environment going to be a little bit of a challenge. So you've got to stay in the game early. If we can do that, and I would say to your point, last year we were in that game against Mississippi State, and remember, I believe it was late third quarter, early fourth quarter. We tried to do a dump off. They tip it up, get an interception, and run it back. And that I think it was an 8-point game when that happened. So
yeah,
I think
you're
we
right.
can we can compete against them. You just said it though. They're more balanced this year, and that's harder than for us. So I think it's important that we take away one or the other. And if we can do that and take away their run game with those bruisers inside, there's a chance that we can compete. And again, we're going to score points against people. I just think that we have weapons at every skill position and the ability to run the ball. So I feel like it's a game that's going to come down to the fourth quarter, and who's going to make that play. And we always used to say, we don't know who, we don't know where, we don't know when, but some Wildcat's going to make a play. And I hope that happens on Saturday.
Now, we're going to have you stick around and make picks with us in the next segment. But my last question before we do that, when you were playing, do you remember a road environment that was really intimidating to go play in? Not ASU. We know that's obviously not, but just maybe a non-conference opponent that stands out to you, and then how you would adjust. I mean, playing in Starkville is different because of the cowbells. You don't hear that anywhere else. Would that affect you as a player, or do you just ignore the noise?
I think that the two examples I would use is probably Oregon in 1997. They took the kickoff back right from the opening kickoff, and I've never heard something that loud in my life because they're very close to you when it comes to the stands in proximity to your bench. And then the second one would be Reser Stadium in Oregon State because they've got this thing that, every time they got the first down, they've got that chainsaw that they blare over the loudspeaker. So that I would assume almost be the equivalent of those cowbells. And at the end of the day, you got 30 seconds each play that you have to focus and align right and do your assignment and execute the play. So all of that extra stuff, it's just distractions. And when you're a mature team and you got Coach Chakeen on the sideline now and the ability to make sure that 11 guys are doing what they're supposed to do, you just have to block that other stuff out. And I think that in today's practices that Coach Fisch puts forth, there's always music blaring. To me, it's a distraction. And I guess that they get used to it because I'm like, I'd like to be able to hear the coaches correct, but that becomes the norm. So I think it's one of those things that's not going to have the impact that some might think it would.
All right, I got two more for you, and then before we get to picks, Barrett, we haven't asked you about your thoughts on Arizona's move to the Big 12. What are your thoughts?
As growing up watching Pac-12 football, Pac-10 football to start with, and then having it expand to the Pac-12 and having Colorado and Utah, maybe that changed things for 2 years or something while we got used to it. 2 years from now, I'll be used to it as well. Geographically, it was nice to be able to always have that option to go to California and watch against USC or UCLA if that was something there. But we'll make new rivalries. And, there's some excitement that comes with that at the same time because, if we play Kansas State, Battle of the Wildcats, let's do it, right? I mean, you're kind of almost having this initial period where it's like another bowl game. You don't know who these teams are, and you don't have any tradition with them. So let's establish some tradition. And at the end of the day, it'll be fun to get some new blood into Arizona Stadium and get some victories against them.
Well, as far as tradition, you got Texas Tech back in the first half of the 20th century. So there's that, but that's about it. Last question. We know another former Wildcat Country guest, Keola Antolin, recently joined the fire department down in Tucson. How's he doing?
Just fantastic, and it's really fun to see somebody that came in after me as a Wildcat. I think 10 years after me. He's a young kid still, but become part of the organization and give back and help Tucson. They support us when we're at U of A, and then our job is to support them when we're done with U of A and give back to the community. He's doing great. Almost done with his probationary year. Family's great. He's got a little girl. And it's fun to see that, dare I say, brotherhood kind of move forward. And we're always looking for more Wildcats to join the party there.
Man, that is so cool. And it's funny. It's fun because just remember watching, Keola on the field, and he was kind of one of those guys, the undersized guy. Nobody gave him a chance, and he ran so hard. And it sounds like he's done that with his professional life as well. Just really kind of no fear and gone right into it. And so cool to hear that he's doing so well.
Well, and our guy Scooby, he was looking to join the fire department too until the USFL came calling. So maybe he'll be another recruit down the road for you.
Yeah, we'll open up a recruitment for Shark Dogs.
That's right.
There.
Coming up next, let's make some picks. We got 11 games we're going to preview. And who will Barrett be taking in Starkville? I have an idea. We'll see if I'm right here on Wildcat Country. It is time for our final segment, and during the fall, that means it is time for picks. Last week against the spread, we did 10 games. I went 6-4. Shane went 5-5, and our guest, Jonathan Coachman, the coach, went 4-6.
Ouch, coach.
Yeah, I will be giving him a ribbing for that on our Sportsline College Football show. You can check that out on YouTube every Wednesday at noon. All right, Barrett, we're going to start with you. The first of our 11 games, Utah is a 7-point favorite at Baylor, who has their starting quarterback out. Actually, both quarterbacks probably not going to play. I don't think Cam Rising will either. Utah -7 at Baylor. Who you got?
I'll go with the Utes for sure. They're just a good coach team, a lot of depth, and they don't have letdowns.
Shane?
Yeah, shame on me for not believing in Utah last week. They were down, like you said, some key players, including their quarterback, and still made easy work of Florida at home. And I'm just not going to pick against them at Baylor, which just lost to Texas State by double digits. So I'm going to take Utah to cover.
I would have taken Baylor outright if that debacle didn't happen last week. Plus, their quarterback was playing. Chapin is out. I don't know anything about their backup, and I don't feel too good about it. Utah was impressive last week. Let's go with them -7, so we all agree. All right, Nebraska at Colorado. Where are the Colorado haters now? Listen, I don't like Dion. I don't think it's going to work long term as far as he's going to implode that program. But in the short term, yeah, looks great. I like Colorado -3 this week against Nebraska. Lower scoring game. Shane, who you got?
The spread's about right since Nebraska continues to find ways to lose one possession games. I don't know if you saw the stat, like how bad they've been in one possession games in the last 3 years, but I don't think it's going to be any different this week. I think Colorado probably wins by a possession, so at least 3 points. So I'll take them to cover.
Barrett?
I'll buck the trend on that one. I just think that there is too much national publicity for Colorado to stay grounded. Obviously, extremely impressive offensively last week, but not impressive defensively. And I think Nebraska, at some point in time, they have to break through. They've been so close, and I can't imagine being a Nebraska fan, the heartbreak that they've gone through over the last couple of years with those close losses. But I'm going to go with Nebraska.
Yeah, I think Nebraska's defense will get Colorado out of sorts, lower scoring game, and I just don't know if they can muster enough points, even against a subpar Colorado defense. Should be a very interesting game, but I don't hate that Nebraska pick at all. All right, I have to ask this one because I was big on Texas A&M going into the season. They are a 4-point favorite at Miami. Shane, I'll start with you. Who you got?
Neither team had any problems in their season opener. It was a low-scoring game last year when they played. A&M won 17-9 at home. I kind of think this is going to be similar, except maybe with a little more offense. I think A&M's got the better quarterback. Add a touchdown to each team's total this year, and I'll take A&M to cover.
Barrett?
Early season humidity in Coral Gables, that's when we see the players cramping up in those first 2 games or so. And I think that is going to lead me to go with Miami and the home field advantage.
Interesting. Hey, listen, my parents are Miami grads. I would love to see them win this game. I just don't think it's going to happen. Texas A&M seems like one of my best bets of the week. I was not impressed with Miami's offense against Miami of Ohio. It was just that the Redhawks were that bad offensively, and their quarterback talked a lot of smack, did not work out well for them. But I'm going to go with A&M to cover the 4-point spread. All right, here's one where I have a feeling we're going to disagree. Oregon is a 6.5-point favorite at Texas Tech. Oregon put up 81 points against Portland State last week. Barrett, I'll start with you. Do you think they cover the touchdown spread at Texas Tech, who lost to Wyoming in double overtime?
How do you bet against it? They've got weaponry all over the place, much like we do. And 81 points, I don't know if, generally speaking, we know how hard that is to score that many points. So until they show any Achilles heel, I think you got to ride with them.
Shane?
Well, based on what you said, Eric, I'm intrigued now, but maybe it seems a little too easy, and maybe this is another example of Vegas knowing something we don't. But like I said, Tech just lost to Wyoming. Oregon's got one of the best quarterbacks and most explosive offenses in the country, so I got to take Oregon with the points.
I'm going to go double, not so fast. In fact, I'm even going to sprinkle the money line here. I like Texas Tech to win this game outright. Wow. Call me crazy. They have won 23 straight home openers in Lubbock. They are a team that I thought was going to be a top 12 team eventually and make one of those New Year's 6 bowl games. That game in Wyoming, always tough. And the defense is kind of shut down in the second half and allowed Wyoming to get back in the game. I just think you can't put a lot of stock in scoring 81 against Portland State, who is playing the equivalent of high school players against even Oregon's backups are way better than 22 or 26 freshmen that I saw who had played. I think Texas Tech finds a way to keep this game close, if not win it outright. So I'm going to go with the Red Raiders here. All right, now here's a game that last year in Wisconsin pretty much led to the end of the Paul Chryst era. Washington State and Wisconsin. Wisconsin is giving 6 points on the road in the Palouse. I actually think, like Washington State, to keep this one close. I think Wisconsin wins by a field goal. Shane?
Yeah, I'm a little surprised by this line, too. It's another one that makes maybe you think maybe Vegas knows something. I know Colorado State's bad, but you still got to give credit to the Cougars for putting up 50 on the road. I think it's going to be a fun game, probably lower scoring than most Washington State games are. I'm not sure who I like to win, but I'm kind of with you, Eric. I don't think Wisconsin covers. I think it's going to be a 3-point game one way or the other.
Barrett?
New coaching staff for Wisconsin. I'm not sure that they know what their identity is yet. They're transitioning, and I didn't feel that they looked particularly good last week at home. So when you go on the road early in the season to the Palouse, which it's a good home field advantage. So I'm gonna go with the Palouse posse of Wazoo fame.
A team that did not look good at all last week was UCLA against Coastal Carolina. Chip Kelly whining about the lack of plays or this and that. Now they're going to Snapdragon Stadium, where Arizona had a lot of success last year, to take on San Diego State, and they're giving 13 points to the Aztecs. I like San Diego State to cover, not win the game, but cover in a kind of a lower, ugly scoring game. Shane?
Yeah, between Chip Kelly and Mick Cronin, there's a lot of whining coming out of UCLA for sure. San Diego State had a tough time at home against Idaho State to open the season. I know UCLA's offense didn't look especially sharp against Coastal Carolina, but I think that's just part of life with a new quarterback. I think the Bruins begin to put it together this week. I'm with you, Eric, though. I just have a tough time taking the road team by 2 scores in this situation. I think UCLA wins, but doesn't cover.
Barrett?
I would echo that. I just, again, finding a new leader for your offense with Chip Kelly. You know, he's got a productive offense, but losing an explosive quarterback, it's going to take a little, and Charbonnet for that matter at the running back position as well. Yeah. So, you know, losing the leader of the offense and the productivity leader of the offense, they're going to take a little time to find their way through that. And San Diego State, one thing that they do is they always play tough defense. So I think UCLA probably wins, but I would keep it within the point spread.
So Auburn is giving 6.5 at Cal. This is an interesting game to me. A late night Auburn kind of playing on a different time zone, but I'm a Hugh Freeze believer. Barrett, do you like Auburn to cover this by a touchdown, or do you think Cal has a chance at the upset?
I'll tell you what, Cal's running back is something that I think a lot of people on a national level are going to know that name by the end of the season.
Yep.
And again, the productivity that he put up in the first game of the season, it just, you don't want to line up against them. So early in the season, it's just so hard to know what each team is. And so I tend to go much more favored towards the home team. And I think Cal has a good chance to actually pull that off.
Shane?
Yeah, Cal definitely looked better than expected at North Texas. I picked North Texas to win that game outright, and so I was a tad off on that one. But I know Auburn beat Don Brown's UMass team, but I don't think that's saying much. And this could be a tricky game for Auburn, having to play on the West Coast in the game that begins at 9:30 p.m. Alabama time. And like Barrett said, Jaden Ott's one of the best backs in the country. I thought it was going to be on my own with this pick. All my instincts are telling me to take Auburn with the points, but I'm going to say Cal hangs in. I don't know if they win outright, but I think it's going to be a close game, and I don't think Auburn covers.
I'm just a believer in Hugh Freeze. I always liked him as a head coach, gets the most out of his talent. And against my better judgment, I'm going to take Auburn to cover that 6.5. Though you guys convinced me. I almost changed my pick before I made it. So, but I'm going to stick with Auburn and disagree with both of you on this one. Now, this next one, I had to include because it's Pac-12 versus Pac-12. Arguably the last Stanford at USC game, and USC is a 29.5 point favorite. Here's my stat for you. USC is the number one team, or has the longest over streak for total points of any team in the country, and one of the longest streaks in the last 2 decades, I believe. It's 10 straight games have gone over. The total started at 71.5, gone down to 68.5. I think USC scores in the 50s, if not more, yet again. And I think they cover, Stanford, nice win at Hawaii last week. I think USC wins this game by 5 touchdowns. Barrett, how about you?
It's just, again, a new regime at Stanford, and you talk about a polar opposite offense. That they're running plays, they're speeding this thing up, and they're trying to score some points rather than that methodical David Shaw check at the line 15, 16 times before you snap the ball. So I think it is definitely going to be an over. I think Stanford's going to score more against them actually than what most will think. But I think UCLA ultimately would still cover.
USC. All right. Shane, how about you?
USC. Yep.
Yeah, I'll keep this simple, and I'm actually surprised, Eric, because I figured that I thought this has backdoor cover all over at 29.5. And USC can win this game handily and still not cover. They go up 5 touchdowns. Stanford scores a meaningless to everyone except the gamblers, late touchdown. And Stanford wasn't as bad as expected at Hawaii. They won that game. So I think USC wins comfortably, but I don't think they're going to cover.
It's a good pick. I can't argue with that. I like the backdoor cover. We hit that with San Jose State the other week. So why not?
Well, you hit it. I didn't. So I'm trying to make up for it.
Okay, fair enough. Game of the week, Texas at Alabama. Last year, Alabama won in Austin by a point, 20-19 in a low-scoring game. I think Texas keeps this one close. My gut probably tells me to go with Alabama, but I have something about this Texas team I really, really like. I think I would not be shocked to see them pull a big upset, but I think this one stays within a touchdown. Shane, what do you think?
Yeah, Texas had a shot against Alabama last year, and I think Texas probably is a legit top 10, maybe top 15 team, probably top 10. I don't see how I can go against Alabama as a 1-score favorite at home. Jalen Milroe looked the part in his first start, even though I want Ty Simpson to win the job eventually because I have a couple of his cards. But I think Milroe continues to play well. Bama wins by at least 10 to 14 points.
Barrett?
Nick Saban, generally speaking, does not lose to former assistants. I think he was almost on the receiving end of that last loss last year. That's a tough one with Sarkisian. I don't think it happens twice, though. So I would say that Alabama at home in Tuscaloosa, tough place to play, and I think they pull it off.
Boy, I'm not feeling good about my pick, seeing you guys go the other way. All right, I'm going to start with Barrett on this one because I know he'll have a strong opinion. Oklahoma State is giving 3.5 points at ASU. Why don't you start us off there, Barrett?
I'm speechless for very few times in my life. I thought ASU looked terrible, and I'm taking great joy in that. And I am Oklahoma State through and through on that one. I think they're going to blow them out.
All right, Shane.
Yeah, this is a tough one because I feel like historically, this is a game that ASU comes out and surprises people. And I think Vegas senses that, which is why the line is as close as it is. OK State didn't look especially impressive on offense in their win over Central Arkansas. I think Jaden Rashada has potential to be very good. And I just think back to, the Herm Edwards' first big game in Tim, because I used to cover ASU back when I worked at ABC 15. I didn't have a choice. Okay. And I remember his first big game against Michigan State. They weren't supposed to win, and they did. And against a ranked Washington team, the same. So it just feels like one of those early season games that ASU has no business winning, and they find a way to. So whether they do or not, I'm gonna take ASU to cover. I don't think Oklahoma State's going to get the points. It's going to be a very close game. I wouldn't be shocked if ASU pulled a win out of their butt, because that's just what they tend to do in these games.
Oklahoma State wins by a touchdown in the fourth quarter. It's a close game going into the fourth quarter. I think Oklahoma State, veteran experience, pulls away. I think ASU is ready to win this game, though Shane's logic makes sense. All right, finally, Mississippi State is a 10.5-point favorite at home against Arizona. Now, I'm going to go first in this one, and I'm going to let Barrett and Shane bring it on home. So I'm going to start with this one. I originally was going to pick a low-scoring game. We mentioned that in the first part of the show. And then I saw the over-under, and I'm like, man, this is a weird line. I'll tell you what, I thought that this line would be in the low 50s as far as the total points. And right now it is considerably higher than that. I think it's like 58, somewhere in that ballpark right now. It's 59.5 and going up. So, I'm going to say a high scoring game. I think Arizona finds a way to cover, keeps this a 1-score game, but I think they fall short. I don't know if they're ready to win a game like this in SEC country. Give me Mississippi State 35, Arizona 27. Barrett, I'll go to you next.
I don't have it in my DNA to pick against us, even if the deck is stacked against us. So I'm going to keep going back to the fact that I truly feel like we battled against Mississippi State last year. They had some NFL guys up front that they don't have this year that graduated, and same quarterback. I understand that. I think we're a better team than we were last year, and it's going to be a big test. But I still think that at the end of the day, we can win this game with some weird 24-23 type of victory.
All right. Arizona outright. Boy, I absolutely love that. And I'll tell you, we will be rejoicing if you are correct. This is one where, hey, I would love to be wrong. Shane, who are you siding with, Barrett or me?
Well, I would love for Barrett to be correct. And I'm sure Barrett can tell you, like, even if Mississippi State's a better team and they're playing at home, a couple of big plays go Arizona's way early, like, their block kick or something like that, and the momentum just shifts and the guys start to believe. So I actually think Arizona's going to be competitive in this game. I think they have the weapons on offense to hang with Mississippi State on the road, even though the offensive line situation, that flux there, does concern me a little. I just don't have enough faith that Arizona's defensive front is going to give Will Rogers enough trouble. Plus, Arizona's got a big problem with penalties. Mississippi State only committed one penalty in its win last weekend. They're as balanced on offense as Arizona is, it seems. I think Arizona hangs tough, but the Bulldogs pull away late and find a way to cover. So I'm going to say 37-24 Mississippi State.
Okay. All right. Fair enough. And you're also going with the overline. Barrett going with the under. I think that is the part of the game that I would most look at. I'm staying away from the spread. I know a lot of you, if you're a bettor, you're probably going to play Arizona. That 10.5 is tempting. I'm going to look at the total because this one's a little odd to me with it being this high. But, hey, it's going to be a great game. And once again, Barrett, we really appreciate you joining Shane and I. Great insight as always. And check the comments on YouTube because I'm sure the Mississippi State fans will be out in full force.
They're coming
after watching this one. Yep, get ready. So for Barrett Baker, Shane Dale, I'm Eric Cohen. Thanks for listening. And as always, bear down.